One morning, Chibiko woke up. He stretched, as usual. He pulled off his covers and got out of bed, as usual. He showered and cleaned himself up, as usual. He went to prepare breakfast, as usual. Now, I say as usual because Chibiko does indeed usually eat breakfast. He's only missed breakfast one time in the past year, and that was because he thought he saw a butterfly in his house, and by the time he had finished searching for it, it was already lunchtime. What is less usual, less recurring, is what Chibiko has for breakfast. Sometimes he has toast. Oftentimes, he has a bowl of cereal. There are also times where he might have waffles, bacon and eggs or porridge, yogurt, fresh fruit, or even fish and rice. This day, he decided to make pancakes. Chibiko got his pancake mix and eggs and milk and whisked them all together in a bowl. Then, he heated his pan, added some butter, and poured the goopy mixture in. He waited for his pancake to show bubbles and then, because he was feeling brave and quite clever, instead of using a spatula to flip it over, he picked up the frying pan and tossed his pancake in the air. 1, 2, 3. He counted while waiting to catch it again. 4, 5, 6. It was starting to occur to Chibiko that his pancake was taking a while to come down again. 7, 8, 9. Something had to be wrong. Chibiko looked up and... Oh no! His pancake was stuck to the ceiling! Chibiko tried jumping, but he couldn't get high enough to reach the pancake. Next, he tried standing on a chair, but the ceiling was simply too high. Chibiko's tummy rumbled. Whatever would he do? He was too small to get the pancake down again. Suddenly, he had an idea. He went to the closet and came back with a broom. Its handle was very long, and with it he was able to reach the roof. But he was very clumsy and kept on missing his pancake. Instead, he hit the roof with a tap, tap, tap. It seemed hopeless. But then Chibiko heard a thud. And then another. He had made the feet upstairs angry, and they were stomping to let him know. Thud. 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 That last thud was big, and Chibiko closed his eyes with surprise for just a second. When he opened them again, he saw his pancake flying down towards his face. Splat! The pancake landed perfectly on his face, and so Chibiko sucked it into his mouth with one big slurp. Well, he thought to himself, that's one way to eat breakfasts. He would have to take another shower, but at least his breakfast had been delicious. It was a pleasant enough day, but as is often the case with pleasant enough days, it was also a little bit boring. Yesterday, Chibiko had been looking forward to a day of doing nothing, but now he was beginning to wish that he had made some plans. At least the summer sun would not set until late, and so Chibiko decided that maybe he could go for a walk and look for something to do. And so he opened his door, left his house, closed his door, and walked down the street. Chibiko walked for a bit, and eventually found himself at the entrance to Button Park. Off in the distance, you could see what looked like different enticing candies standing up and decorating the grass. Candy, he thought to himself. I like candy. Cotton candy in particular. And so he walked towards the giant-looking candies to see what was happening. As he got closer, Chibiko saw that what he had thought to be large candies weren't actually candies at all. Rather, they were a mix of different stalls and rides. That's right, Chibiko remembered. The town fair is very soon. They must be setting up and getting ready for it. Without even realizing it, Chibiko had wandered into the fair, even though it wasn't open yet. He started to feel nervous. Was he going to get into trouble? He decided that he should try and sneak away. But just as he turned around, he heard a voice. You there! Who are you? Chibiko froze in his tracks, suddenly very frightened. Turn around, the voice said. Chibiko did as he was told, and turned around to see the carrot that was speaking to him. The carrot gave Chibiko a meatball. It was very yummy, and Chibiko said so. No sooner had he done this, however, than a stick of celery called him over. It wanted Chibiko to try its cheese sticks. They were also very good. Then a radish gave him some pizza to try. A tomato some fried chicken, an aubergine some mutton curry, and a spring onion had him try its pork adobo. All of it was scrumptious, and Chibiko was feeling quite full. Almost too full to eat. He was ready to tell the squash that he only had space left for fairy floss, but it turned out that the squash wanted Chibiko to try a spinning chair ride. Since he didn't have to eat anything, Chibiko agreed. The spinning chair ride was a lot of fun. It was almost like driving a race car, and... Uh-oh. Chibiko looked down and realized that he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. Seconds later, he went flying from his chair and landed in a kind of metal bin filled with tiny pink crystals. At first, Chibiko thought his head was spinning, but then he realized that it was the bin that was spinning, and he was in it. The pink crystals seemed to turn into clouds around him, and when the spinning eventually stopped, he was covered in a huge ball of cotton candy. Oops, sorry about that, said the broccoli that had been manning the cotton candy cart. No problem, Chibiko replied. I love cotton candy. And with that, Chibiko ate all of the cotton candy that was covering him, and, since he was now quite sticky, decided to go home to take a shower. He felt a little bit sick, but he was very happy. One day, Chibiko woke up with a song stuck in his head. It was a song about wheels on a bus going round, and about daddies sleeping, and mummies hushing, and drivers honking. He hummed it as he got out of bed. He hummed it as he took a shower. He hummed it while he made his breakfast. And he hummed it with a mouthful of toast, which caused him to splutter a bit. After he was done eating and cleaning up his mess, the song was still stuck in his head. And so he decided that there was only one thing he could do about it. He would go out and ride a bus. And so he went out and walked towards the nearest bus stop. Partway there, Chibiko realized that he was going to ride the bus for a long time. But he had forgotten to pack any lunch. And so he popped into the donut shop that was on the way. The donut shop was amazing. It had all kinds of donuts. Sugar glazed donuts, donuts with chocolate frosting, donuts filled with strawberry jam, slug flavored donuts. There were also small donut balls and, most impressive of all, there were big donuts. Really big donuts. One donut was about as big as Chibiko himself, and so he bought it and rolled it with him to the bus stop. The bus came after only a few minutes, and Chibiko rolled his donut on board, bought a ticket for both it and himself, and after deciding that since he paid for the tickets and thus should be the one who got to sit beside the window, sat with his giant donut on a seat towards the back of the bus, right by the window. As the bus drove around town, Chibiko saw many different things. There were some buildings that were pointy and some buildings that were curved. There were some trees that were green and some trees that were pink. He saw restaurants that served food he had never heard of before. He saw places where he could play sports like tennis or basketball or soccer. When the driver asked him where he wanted to get off, Chibiko replied that he had decided to just stay on until the bus looped back to where he got on. He was enjoying his day a lot. But then, disaster. The bus suddenly became very bumpy, and then it slowed down, and then it stopped. "Oh dear," said the bus driver. "I think we have a flat tire." Chibiko got out with the driver and looked at the tire. The driver was right. It was flat. According to the driver, they would have to wait for the bus company to bring a new tire, and that might take hours. "Oh no," Chibiko thought. "I want to go home soon." The driver got his phone out from his pocket to make a call. But then Chibiko had an idea. "Wait here," he said, and disappeared into the bus. A couple of minutes later, Chibiko came back out with his giant donut. "Can we use this?" he asked. "You know, maybe we can," the driver said. "It's a good thing that your donut really is very big." And so, the driver replaced the flat tire with Chibiko's donut. The ride was still a bit bumpy because the donut wasn't the exact same size as the wheels, but it was much better than before. And so the driver took Chibiko home. After he got off from the bus and walked back to his house, Chibiko thought about how lucky it was that he hadn't eaten the big donut. It really was too big for him, and he still wasn't very hungry. Besides, he figured that he should eat something a bit more healthy for dinner anyway. One day, Chibiko woke up with his face down in his pillow. He breathed in and... Yuck! It smelled really bad. He quickly jumped out of bed, removed his pillowcase, and threw it into the laundry. The smell on the pillowcase had to have come from somewhere though. And after some thinking, Chibiko decided that the smell must have come from his own head. When was the last time he had shampooed anyway? He couldn't remember. And so, Chibiko headed to the shower with a bottle of shampoo in hand. Once the water was nice and warm, and he was wet all over, Chibiko squeezed a little shampoo onto his hand. Then, he squeezed a little bit more. Was that enough? He wasn't really sure. All that he was sure about was that it had been a long time since the last time, so maybe it would be safest to squeeze out some more. Chibiko made sure that his head was wet and then started to scrub in the shampoo. It became foamy very quickly, and soon he had to close his eyes so as to stop the soap suds from hurting them. It had been a long time since he had last washed his head though, and so he continued to scrub and scrub and scrub. Because his eyes were shut, Chibiko didn't notice that all of the bubbles and foam from his shampoo had grown so large that they had gotten too big for just the shower and had now covered his sink and filled his bedroom. Chibiko started to hum as he scrubbed. Hum, hum, hum. The suds continued to grow. They filled his living room. They reached his dining room. They started to fill the kitchen. In the laundry, Chibiko had also used too much soap for his pillow sheet, and his washing machine was starting to overflow with bubbles of its own. They filled the laundry room, and then they went into the rest of Chibiko's home and mixed with the bubbles from the shampoo. Soon, bubbles were being forced to escape from Chibiko's windows. People outside could see them floating through the sky. Chibiko ran water over his head. He washed his face and opened his eyes. Everything he could see was white. White everywhere. His entire home was filled with foam and bubbles. He pushed his way through, got a towel and dried himself. Then, unsure what to do, he found his bed and decided to take a nap. When he woke up, all of the bubbles had faded away and his home was sparkling clean. Whew, he thought, that's lucky. Not only are all of the bubbles gone, but it looks like I don't have to clean the house anymore. And so he made and ate some breakfast. And when it came time to clean his plates, he was very careful to use only a little bit of dish soap. One day, Chibiko slept for so long that when he woke up, it was already getting dark outside again. Oh dear, he thought to himself. I'm wide awake and it's almost bedtime again. What should I do? Chibiko wasn't used to being up so late. Daytime was for being awake and nighttime was for sleeping. Whatever did people do during nighttime anyway? He thought about this for a moment, and then it hit him. people watch movies in their homes at nighttime. At least, he thought that was one thing that they might do. And so, Chibiko got a bowl of popcorn and sat himself down in front of his television with his remote in hand so that he could see what movies there were to watch. There were funny movies, there were cartoons, and there were romantic movies. There were also action movies. Chibiko imagined what it might be like to be a kung fu master. Sad movies, and movies about real life. There were also scary movies. Ah, Chibiko thought, scary movies are what people watch late at night. I'll watch a scary movie. And so, Chibiko chose a scary movie, sat back, and started to eat his popcorn. The movie was very scary, and after a while, Chibiko could swear that he saw a spider creeping towards him from the corner of the room. Chibiko thought that he should get up from his chair and go to another room, but when he tried to, he found that he was too scared to move. The shadowy object got closer and closer and closer. And then it said, "Hello! Gah!" Chibiko started to shriek, but then he paused. He had been expecting a roar, or an evil laugh, or maybe something like the sound of nails on a chalkboard. Instead, he had heard a simple hello. It was a friendly sounding hello too. It even sounded a little bit shy, like maybe it was also scared. Chibiko opened his eyes. "Hello," the thing said again. "My name is Danny. I live in the treehouse next door." Danny reached out a thin arm and Chibiko shook his hand. "Nice to meet you," he said. "Would you like to watch this movie with me? I think we'd both feel braver if we had a friend to watch with." And so, thanks to a scary movie, Chibiko became friends with a little triangle that had been hiding near his home. One morning, while eating scrambled eggs for breakfast, Chibiko started to remember how much trouble he had had when learning to cook different things. Even now, he didn't have a cookbook or a website with instructions that he could follow. He made food from his own memory. Sometimes he got things right the first time, but other recipes took many tries. There was the time when he couldn't figure out how much salt to put on his fried pork and ended up using far too much. There was the time when he didn't know how long to leave his waffles cooking for. There was also the time when he didn't know what size pot to use for his sinigang soup. And there was the incident with his attempted Sunday roast. As he finished up his breakfast, it occurred to him that the reason he had so much trouble learning to cook new things was because he wasn't very good at counting. And so, he decided to dedicate this day to get better at counting to 10. First, he tried to count his fingers. 1, 2. Well, that was easy enough. he looked around his house for other things to count. Aha! Windows! 1, 2, 3. 3 windows! He was still a few numbers away from 10, however. And so he looked around for more things. Cushions, he decided. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, that wasn't a cushion. That was Danny. What are you doing? Danny asked. I'm practicing counting, Chibiko said. But I'm having trouble finding 10 things to count. I'm sorry that I thought you were a cushion. It's an easy mistake to make, Danny said. My mother always said that I was a bit cushiony. Do you want me to help you find some things to count? Yes, please, Chibiko said. Danny thought for a moment, and then he walked around Chibiko's house and collected all of the cups that had been lying around. Chibiko can be a bit messy with cups. Here, he said, try counting these. Chibiko looked at the collection of cups and started pointing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Wait, Danny said. You forgot 7. Oh, Chibiko said. He started to count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. Stop! Danny said. You did it again! Did I? Chibiko asked. You did, Danny replied. Just remember that 10 is scared of 7. Do you know why? Why? Chibiko asked. Because 7, 8, 9, Danny answered, and then laughed so hard that he fell off of the sofa. Chibiko didn't laugh. He was focusing very hard. He started pointing at all of the cups again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10! I did it! He beamed. Congratulations! Danny said. It was getting late, and the stars were coming out in the sky. Danny and Chibiko both looked out at the stars through the window. Chibiko practiced counting to 10 with the stars, and then he counted to 20, and then to 30. There were so many of them, and they were very beautiful, although some of them were black. Wait, no, those were ants. Chibiko sighed. He was going to have to remember to pack the sugar away, or else he would be counting to 1,000. Some time ago, when he was younger, Chibiko had decorated the walls of his house with lots of stickers. He had used all sorts of stickers. He had farm animals and dinosaurs, superheroes and racing cars, cartoon characters and different planets. His favorite one was of a manta ray that glowed in the dark at night once he had turned the lights off. The stickers were a bit old now though, and so Chibiko decided that it was about time that he peeled them off. He started with a dinosaur, but when he peeled it, oh no! He had peeled some of the paint away too. He peeled off a few more stickers, and then some more, and then even more. Each time he peeled a sticker off, he peeled some paint off as well. By the time he was finished, his wall was covered in spots where there wasn't any paint anymore. This just won't do, Chibiko thought to himself. A wall needs to be nicely painted. And so he went out to buy some paint. While at the hardware store and trying to decide if he wanted red, blue, or yellow paint for his walls, Chibiko ran into Danny. "Not sure what color you want?" Danny asked. "No, I'm not," Chibiko answered. "I like red because it makes me think of yummy apples and cherries. I like blue because it's like looking at the sky on a sunny day. And I like yellow because it's like sand on the beach." "Why not buy one of each and then decide when you're back in your house?" Danny suggested. "I can help you paint." Chibiko was grateful for both Danny's suggestion and his offer of help. And so they bought 3 tins of paint and 2 brushes and went back to Chibiko's home together. Once they were inside, they decided that maybe they could paint different rooms in new, different colors. They painted the bedroom yellow because the sun was yellow, and a yellow room would also make Chibiko think of sunflowers. After this, they got out the red paint and started to paint Chibiko's kitchen, because red wasn't just the color of apples and cherries, but also of strawberries and rhubarb and tomato soup, and many other delicious things. Last but not least, they painted his living room blue, because it was the biggest room, and because things like the ocean are also very, very big. When they were finished, they decided that they deserved a drink of orange juice. The only problem was, Danny couldn't see Chibiko anywhere. "Where are you?" Danny asked. "Over here," Chibiko replied. But when Danny looked at where Chibiko's voice had come from, he could see nothing but blue. "I can't see you," Danny said. "But I'm right here," Chibiko replied. "Let's just go to the kitchen and get our orange juice," Danny said. When they went to the kitchen, they realized what the problem was. Chibiko had painted himself blue. All of that painting in different colors had made him confused. "Let's just paint the rooms again tomorrow. Maybe to the same colors that they were before we started," Chibiko said, as he put some ice into 2 glasses to make sure that their juice would be nice and cold. Chibiko was bored. He sat on the sofa, stared at the wall, and sighed. He had spent the whole afternoon watching TV, and it wasn't even good TV. It was boring TV. He had been watching the television simply because he couldn't think of anything more interesting to do than watching television. And now he was wishing that he hadn't spent so much time watching. He could have drawn some pictures, or learned to cook something new, or tried to play the guitar. The only problem was, he didn't know what he wanted to draw, whether he wanted to make a green curry or perhaps bake a cake, or indeed what song he wanted to play. "Perhaps I could go somewhere," he thought to himself as he got up and looked out of his window. But the afternoon was growing late, and the moon was now already faintly visible in the sky. It would soon be nighttime, and the night was too dark for Chibiko to comfortably go out and about. He looked back at his sofa. He looked out of the window again, and then he had an idea. Chibiko picked up his phone and called Danny. "Are you free tomorrow?" he asked. "I have an idea for something we can do." Chibiko went to his storeroom and got all of the empty cardboard boxes that he could find. He then made a simple dinner for himself that may have contained a few too many onions. And then he went to bed. He was looking forward to what he and his friend would do the following day. The next morning, Chibiko woke up the second his alarm sounded. He was very excited. He took a shower, ate breakfast, and brushed his teeth. Then, his doorbell rang. Danny had arrived exactly on time. "What are we doing?" Danny asked. "Follow me," Chibiko said, and led his friend to the pile of boxes. "Can you help me bring these out to the backyard?" he said. And so, Danny and Chibiko spent the morning moving boxes to Chibiko's backyard and arranging them. They took a break to eat lemon-flavored cookies and drink mango lassi. And then in the afternoon, they moved the sofa. It was very heavy, but Chibiko promised that it would be worth the effort. At last, they were done. "We did it!" Chibiko exclaimed. "Did what?" Danny asked. "Look," Chibiko said, pointing to the body of boxes surrounding his sofa. "We built a spaceship." "Wow!" Danny said. "Can we ride it?" "Of course we can," Chibiko replied. And so, as the afternoon turned to evening and the moon slowly rose in the sky, Chibiko and Danny sat comfortably on the sofa of their very own spaceship and went on a space adventure together. It was a beautiful day, nice and warm and not a cloud in the blue sky. Actually, that's not quite right. It was clear and sunny, but there was at least a cloud in the sky. In fact, Chibiko could see a total of 3. Still, 3 clouds is pretty good, and these were friendly, fluffy white clouds. Chibiko stood out behind his house and watched them while enjoying the sunlight. After staring at them for a bit, he couldn't help but notice that they were forming together into something that looked a lot like an ice cream cone. Ice cream! Ice cream would be a perfect snack for a day as pleasant and warm as this one. Chibiko went inside and opened his freezer. To his disappointment, there was no ice cream left inside it. And so, he also checked in the closet, behind his television, and even inside a shoe. But there was no ice cream to be found. Never mind, he thought to himself. It's such a nice day. I'm sure that they're selling ice cream in the park. And it's a perfect day to take a walk. And so, Chibiko went out, locked the front door, and walked to Button Park. Sure enough, there was ice cream for sale at the park. Chibiko walked up to the cart. "Hello," said the ice cream salesperson. "What will you have today?" Chibiko stared at the list of flavors. It was really long, and thought out loud about all of the flavors that he might like on his cone. Ooh, chocolate, strawberry, mango, bubblegum, banana would be good. caramel swirl, double chocolate, melon mix, green tea, cheese, cookies and cream, passion fruit. Oh wow, I have to try the hamburger flavor, but also stewed apple, maple syrup, ooh, and crispy mint chip. Here you go, he heard a voice say. Chibiko looked up at the salesperson. He hadn't realized that he had been speaking out loud the whole time, and now he had accidentally ordered 16 different flavored scoops of ice cream. Thank you, he said nervously, and took the very tall ice cream cone. Chibiko's ice cream really was very tall, and he had to walk very carefully. At least it was a nice day to walk. The sun was out, the clouds were fluffy, and birds were chirping. A lot of birds, in fact. As he walked, Chibiko decided to count each one he saw fly by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wow, 10 already. Wait, no. 11, 12, 13. Almost home. 14. 15! Wow, thought Chibiko. 15 birds. He dug out his key, opened his door, and went through to his backyard to eat his ice cream. It was only then that he realized that he didn't have 16 flavors any longer. All he had was 1 scoop of chocolate ice cream. Oh well, he thought to himself, 16 scoops is too much for just me anyway. And so he enjoyed eating his scoop of chocolate ice cream. In the near distance, he could make out some slightly round-looking birds sitting in the tree beside his house. Chibiko woke up feeling excited. This was because he had dreamed that he was surfing. In his dream, he was very good at it. He had a cool mustache, wore cool sunglasses, and he rode big waves and did cool tricks with whales and dolphins. He thought about surfing as he took a shower. He thought about surfing as he ate some eggs for breakfast. He was still thinking about surfing while he was brushing his teeth. Eventually, Chibiko decided that he should go to the beach. It was a lovely, warm day after all. And so, he left his house, got on the bus, and rode to Bear Bells Beach. Luckily for Chibiko, it was still nice and sunny when he got to the beach, but it also wasn't very crowded. Chibiko put on some sunscreen and then went over to the small set of shops to borrow a surfboard. While he had dreamed of surfing like a pro, since this would be his first time to try surfing for real, the woman at the store also gave Chibiko some floaties to wear while he was in the water. Chibiko said thanks and then rushed out in such excitement that he almost toppled over someone's sandcastle. "Oops, sorry," Chibiko said. "It's okay. Please just be careful," said the children who were working on what was looking like it would become a very big sandcastle by the end of the day. "Are you going surfing?" "Yup," Chibiko said, his voice bubbling with pride and excitement. "That's so cool!" one of the kids replied. Surfing looks like fun, but also kind of scary. Are you good at surfing? Another kid asked. I don't know, Chibiko said. This is my first time. Good luck, the kids all said together. Let us know how hard it is. Chibiko waved to the kids as he ran off to the water. Ah, he thought once he reached it. It's cold! After a couple of minutes, he got used to the water's temperature and so waded out deeper and climbed onto his surfboard. He rolled off 2 seconds later. Splash! Surfing in real life was much harder than it had been in his dream. Chibiko climbed back on and tried to stand up. A wave came and flipped him headfirst into the water. Splash! Chibiko climbed on again, and this time held on tight to his surfboard. Many waves came and splashed him around, but he didn't let go. He wondered if he looked silly, but at least he was having fun. Soon, Chibiko's arms got tired just as a big wave was coming. It threw him and his surfboard so far that he almost landed on the sand. He decided that it was time to return the surfboard and ride the bus back home for dinner. He picked up his board and walked back to the store, past the children who had now built a massive, spectacular sandcastle. How is surfing? They all asked at once. It's pretty difficult, Chibiko told them. But I did get this cool mustache, he said, pointing to the seaweed that had become stuck to his face. It was a nice day. The sun was out and the air was crisp. This was perfect for Chibiko, as he had decided that today he would go hiking in the mountains near his house. He ate a healthy breakfast of different fruits, and then packed his bag, making sure to include a few snacks for energy, as well as a bottle of water, as it was important not to get too thirsty when you go hiking. Then he slapped on some sunscreen, went outside, and rode the bus to the foot of the nearest mountain. It was much bigger than he had expected up close. This hike might take all day. Well, no time to waste then, Chibiko thought. And so he started to walk up the mountain path. Soon he was sweating, even though the weather wasn't hot. Wow, hiking can be tough. Luckily, the higher he got, the more trees there were, so he could keep out of the sun. But then suddenly, he ran into a tree snake. Hiss! Oh no, I have a chocolate bar, Chibiko said as he pulled the treat from his backpack. The snake looked at the chocolate bar, sniffed it, and then smiled. Whew! Safe. Chibiko continued to hike up the mountain. But a few minutes later, he bumped into a bear. Growl. Oh no, I have this tuna sandwich, Chibiko said as he pulled his lunch out from his backpack. The bear looked at the sandwich and examined it closely. It smiled. Whew! Safe again. Chibiko continued to hike up the mountain path. A couple of scares aside, It had been quite a pleasant day, and Chibiko was sure that he was getting some good exercise, as well as some nice fresh air. Suddenly, a gorilla appeared in front of him. It beat its chest. Thump, thump, thump. Oh no, I have a... Chibiko frantically searched the contents of his backpack. I have this box of animal crackers! The gorilla took the box and opened it. It looked very closely as it pulled out its first cracker. It was a monkey animal cracker. Oh no, the gorilla is very angry. Quick, run down the hill! Chibiko ran as fast as he could. Bye bear! Bye snake! Ah! The gorilla was still behind him. Quick, to the bus stop, wait for the bus, get on the bus, pay your fare, ride the bus. Chibiko checked the window before getting off the bus. Whew, safe. He thanked the driver, got off, went home and opened the fridge so that he could cool down with a nice glass of orange juice. Well, that was exciting, he thought to himself. I wonder if I should stay inside tomorrow. Chibiko came home with a large paper bag full of groceries. It was quite heavy, and he had had some trouble opening the front door. But he eventually got inside and went to the kitchen to unpack. This was the first time that he had been shopping in some time, and so he had bought a lot of food. He had milk and cheese, some bread, some pork and some chicken, a few snacks, and some vegetables. He packed everything away. That's pretty lucky, he thought to himself as he put the last bag of candy in a cabinet. The bag was starting to tear open. A few more minutes and I might have lost everything. He then made himself a grilled cheese sandwich for dinner, brushed his teeth, and went to bed. Chibiko! A voice said. Chibiko groaned and turned his face into his pillow. Chibiko! The voice said again. Chibiko sat up and rubbed his eyes. Danny was in his bedroom. Chibiko really needed to get better about locking his door when he was home. You won't believe it! Danny's voice was almost shouting. Chibiko couldn't tell if his friend was excited or afraid. Believe what? Chibiko asked. Follow me! Danny said, and then rushed out of the bedroom. Chibiko got up and followed his friend, through the living room and to his front door. He couldn't believe his eyes. There was an enormous pumpkin in his front yard. I could hear it growing when I was trying to sleep last night, Danny said. Isn't it incredible? I wonder how it got here. Chibiko stood in thought. Jelly beans quite often appeared in his front yard, but a pumpkin? That was something new entirely. Just how did it get there? Oh, Chibiko said as he suddenly realized something. There was a small hole in my shopping bag yesterday. Maybe a small pumpkin or something fell out before I got inside? That makes sense, Danny said. Pumpkins can be kind of weird and magical at this time of year. I wonder what we should do with this one. It looks delicious. Chibiko wasn't really sure if pumpkins were magic at any time of the year. but it was true that there was a very big one in his front yard right now. "I think it's a bit too big for us to eat it all," Chibiko began. "What if we turn it into a swimming pool?" Danny suggested. "I, don't think so," Chibiko replied. "What about a hot tub?" Danny said. "Wouldn't that basically be like taking a bath in pumpkin soup?" Chibiko said. "I guess so," Danny said. His voice sounded a little disappointed. "Why don't we just decorate it?" Chibiko said. "In fact, your body might be the perfect shape to measure the eyes with." Danny seemed to like this idea, and so they set about using him to measure and cut out some eyes on the giant pumpkin. It was a lot of fun, but all of the measuring and cutting was very hard work, and it was already starting to get dark by the time they were done. "I don't think we have time to cut out a proper mouth," Chibiko said. "It's getting late." "Don't worry," Daddy beamed and quickly ran off to his treehouse. Chibiko was curious about what Danny was doing, but he didn't have to wait long. Danny returned with a box of crayons. "I find it scary if we cut out a normal mouth," he said as he offered Chibiko a choice of color. "Let's just draw one in our own style." And so, Chibiko and Danny worked together to create a very large and very unique Jack-o'-lantern. It wasn't scary, but it wouldn't have mattered. They were both exhausted and had fallen asleep before they could even eat dinner and get to their beds. One afternoon, Chibiko was looking out the window at his backyard and wondering what he could do. His backyard was a bit messy. Dirty really, because there was a lot of dirt. But it didn't have many fun things in it. No swing set, no basketball hoop, no vegetable garden, nothing. He returned to his living room and looked at his TV, just in time to see a story about a dog that had dug a hole while looking for a bone that it had buried years ago. Instead of a bone, though, it had found a nugget of gold. Apparently, it was worth a lot of money. Chibiko looked at the picture of the gold nugget in amazement. And then an idea hit him. He could look for gold in his own backyard. He had lots of space to dig in after all. And so, he dug around his old chesty he called it, until he found a spade, and went out into his backyard. If Chibiko's memory from watching pirate cartoons was correct, then if there was any treasure to be found, it would be buried beneath a big letter X, often red in color. Chibiko wandered around his backyard in search of a big red X, but he found nothing. After walking around 3 times, he found a patch in the grass that looked a bit like an X. It was his best lead, and so he got his spade and started digging. Dirt went everywhere. It got all over the grass, colored his windows brown, and made Chibiko himself very dirty. Even though he did a lot of digging, Chibiko had found no signs of gold. Perhaps there was gold buried in a different part of his yard. Chibiko's hole was quite deep though. He jumped once and fell back down. He jumped twice and fell down again. He jumped a third time and climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed until he got out. Phew! Clearly, looking for a big red X wasn't working. Chibiko went back inside, showered, and again dug around inside Chesty. 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 37 minutes later, he pulled out a metal detector. Chibiko took his metal detector outside, switched it on, and started walking around his yard, listening to the beeps. He checked one corner. Beep, beep, beep. He checked the next corner. Beep, beep, beep. He checked a third corner. Beep, beep, beep. He checked the final corner. Beep, beep, beep. Nothing. Chibiko felt a bit sad. He walked back towards his back door, dragging the metal detector behind him. Beep, 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 beep. Chibiko jumped with excitement. His metal detector was beeping super fast. He ran, got his spade, and dug. He dug and dug and dug until he found an old box. That's strange, he thought to himself. I guess I should open it. Inside he found a photo of himself as a baby. Wow! He sat and stared at the photo. This must have been buried here years ago, waiting for him to find it. He had completely forgotten that it had been buried here. He felt very happy. He hadn't found any gold, but this treasure was still very good. He was glad that he had spent his afternoon digging up his backyard. Even if he had made a very big mess. Recently, Chibiko had been watching his favorite TV show. It was a show about ninja hot dogs, and in it, the ninja hot dogs stopped crimes by hiding in trees, jumping really high, throwing spiky stars, and getting into sword fights. It was very exciting, and Chibiko often imagined himself as a new member of the Ninja Hot Dog Squad. Since blue was already taken, his outfit would be purple, and his special skill would be throwing blasts of wind with his sword. He would be excellent at hiding and able to jump over entire buildings. One day, while looking out over his neighborhood, Ninja Chibiko saw some giant potatoes that were trying to steal all of the town's computers and televisions. Ninja Hot Dog Squad, to action! One ninja hot dog that was good at running jumped to the left. Another ninja hot dog that could talk to animals went to the pet store to the right. A third ninja hot dog, one with special long-ranged vision, climbed as high as it could to watch the action and talked to the other squad members over the special Wiener radio. Chibiko's job was to run forward so that he could keep the television thieves busy while the hot dog squad got ready to catch them and take them to jail. And so he charged forward. He ran super fast, and then there it was, the first giant potato. The potato tried to punch Chibiko, but Chibiko jumped over the potato and knocked it over with his sword. Chibiko heard the next potato coming before it even saw him, and he hid just in time. The potato looked very mean, but no matter how hard it looked, it couldn't see Chibiko. When it turned around, Chibiko appeared from his hiding spot and knocked the second potato over. With 2 potatoes already knocked down, he rushed around the corner where he caught a third potato by surprise and tripped it with his throwing star before it had a chance to even turn around. Chibiko was doing very well as the 4th member of the Ninja Hot Dog Squad. These potatoes had just been henchmen, however. There was still another, even meaner giant potato that was stealing all of the computers and televisions in town. Chibiko would have to find the boss potato. Suddenly, he got a Wiener radio message from the 3rd Ninja Hot Dog. I've spotted the leader of the big potatoes. It's in the center of the city, loading televisions into a truck. Please race there and stop it. There was no time to wait. Chibiko turned towards the center of town and ran at super ninja speed. When he arrived, the first 2 members of the squad were in trouble. Chibiko suddenly felt very angry. He pulled out his sword and threw a blast of wind at the big boss potato. "Yah!" he yelled. The blast missed, and the potato boss smiled. But this only made Chibiko more fired up. He charged in, slashed with his sword, and heard a smash. He opened his eyes. He had made quite a mess. There were scratches on the walls, cushions were all messed up, and it looked like he had broken his TV with a toilet brush while imagining himself charging at the big boss potato. Chibiko was a bit sad about breaking his TV, but the sight of his toilet brush sticking through it was so funny that he laughed and laughed for the rest of the day. One morning, after eating breakfast and brushing his teeth, Chibiko sat himself on his sofa with a plonk, picked up the remote control and pointed it at his television. Nothing happened. He pressed a few more buttons before he remembered that there was a hole in the front of his TV. It was broken, and he would have to wait until he bought a new one before he could watch Gumdrop Gumboots, Ninja Hot Dog Squad, News Grumps, or any other of his favorite shows. While he was wondering about what kind of new TV to buy, or if he could get this one fixed, Chibiko's phone rang and he answered it. "Hello, this is Chibiko," he said.
"Hi, Chibiko. It's Danny,"
his triangular friend answered. I was just wondering if you had anything that you were planning to do for today.
Well, I was planning to watch some TV shows, Chibiko said. But
what? Danny asked.
My TV doesn't work. I broke it, Chibiko told him.
Don't worry, Danny said, suddenly excited. I have an idea.
What idea? Chibiko asked.
Just wait and see. I'll be there in a couple of minutes, Danny said, and then hung up the phone.
Whatever was Danny planning to do?
Chibiko wondered. Soon, the doorbell rang. Ding dong! When Chibiko opened the door, he saw that Danny had brought with him a big cardboard box, a pair of scissors, sticky tape, lots of paper, and different colored paints. We'll make our own TV show! Danny exclaimed, and they both went inside. They ate some pork adobo for lunch together, and then set about making everything that they would need to make their own television show. They spent the whole afternoon cutting and measuring and sticking and painting, until finally they were ready, just before sundown. Ready? Danny asked.
Ready, Chibiko said. Good evening, people of Saturn. It's time for the daily news. Today was peaceful in the morning, but around lunchtime, some dinosaurs jumped over from the rings and started to eat all of the food in one family's fridge. Here's what one of them had to say.
It was really scary. There were so many of them, and they were very big. Thankfully, I was able to keep one pizza from them by hiding it under the sofa.
It is believed that a Tyrannosaurus, Brachiosaurus, and Triceratops were the main fridge raiders. A Stegosaurus is believed to have hurt its leg after landing. It is now being treated at Saturn Central Hospital. In other news, the great annual ice cream ring race is set to start tomorrow. This is a traditional race in which Martian wombats drive cars made out of ice cream around the rings of Saturn for 3 weeks. The wombat with the most laps at the end of this time will be the champion, which means that he or she gets to eat all of the ice cream cars. Last year's winner, Wemble, seen here looking very happy, is this year's favorite as well. Ding 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 ding! And that's all we have time for tonight. Remember people, stay safe and sleep well.
You're a natural, Danny said. We should do this again one day.
That might be fun, Chibiko thought as he saw Danny out before it got too dark, and then went to his room and put himself to bed. It can be fun to do things, instead of just watching them sometimes.
And then he went to sleep. Chibiko woke up feeling very excited. He rushed through his morning shower, ate a healthy breakfast of hot oats with banana, and brushed his teeth so quickly that he got toothpaste all over his face. Then he went out and walked to Button Park. There were lots of people at the park doing different things. Some children were flying kites. Others were having a picnic. Some of the bigger kids were hanging upside down from the monkey bars. But this wasn't what Chibiko was here for today. Today, he was at the park to play soccer. He walked to an open stretch of grass with goalposts at each side and introduced himself. Today's game would be between Team Grapefruit and Team Banana Split. he was told that he would be playing for Team Banana Split and handed his uniform with the number 7 on it. Chibiko walked onto the field with his teammates and then went to put his yellow jersey on. He still had it over his head when the whistle blew. Chibiko heard the soccer ball fly over him, and then the sound of his teammates running and shouting. But his jersey was stuck. He couldn't see! He heard the ball again, followed by a rush of busy feet. It sounded like everyone was having fun. Chibiko tugged and tugged and tugged at his singlet, but it wouldn't come down over his face. The ball whooshed past again, and a member of Team Grapefruit nearly ran straight into Chibiko. This time, he pulled and pulled and pulled up on his singlet, but he couldn't pull it off either. Again, Chibiko heard the ball zoom past him, followed by the footsteps of his teammates. Well, I guess I'll have to just do my best, he thought to himself, and ran after the sound of the ball. Playing soccer without being able to see was very hard, but Chibiko ran up and down the field, doing his best to follow everyone and to help his team. There was a cheer from the Grapefruit team. They had scored a goal. Chibiko was worried for his team. But soon after, there was a cheer from Team Banana Split as well. They had also scored a goal. The game was tied. Both teams had 1 goal each. Chibiko was getting very tired, and he still had his shirt blocking his eyes, but he continued to run after the ball. Then a whistle blew. Chibiko had been told before the game that the late whistle would mean that there was only a little bit of time left. But the whistle was so loud that Chibiko couldn't hear where the ball was, and so all he could do was stay still and listen as hard as he could. Shh! Suddenly, Chibiko felt a hard thwack against his head. He had been hit by the soccer ball. It really hurt, but as it bounced away again, he heard the Banana Split team cheering. The ball had bounced off of Chibiko's noggin and into the goal. He had won the game. All of his teammates came around to congratulate him. Soccer is pretty fun, Chibiko thought. Even when things go wrong, they can still go right. One day, Chibiko woke up feeling a little bit cold. At first, he was worried that he might be sick, but when he got out of bed and looked out of the window, he noticed that there were white dots fluttering down outside his house. It was snowing. Feeling very excited, Chibiko took a nice hot shower, ate some breakfast, brushed his teeth, and then searched his closet for something warm to wear. No. Nope. Perhaps not. Something else, maybe? No. Yeah, oh dear. Chibiko dug and dug and dug through his closet, making a terrible mess of his bedroom as he did so, until finally he found what he was looking for. Ah, that's better. Now that he was properly dressed, Chibiko could go outside and play in the snow. He opened his front door and walked out into the winter wonderland that had come to visit his home.
Much to Chibiko's surprise, even though the ground was white and snow was falling from the sky, it was still quite sunny outside. What a nice day it was turning out to be. While he had seen snow in TV shows and movies before, this was the first time that it had ever snowed in Chibiko's town. He wondered if he should go to the park and see if people were having a snowball fight. But he was a bit scared to wander too far from his house when it was snowing so much. And so he instead decided to fall back into the snow and make an angel. Poof! Ouch! Chibiko had always imagined that snow was soft, like white cotton candy from the sky, only less sticky. It turned out that it was a little bit harder and a bit more icy than he had been expecting. Still, it had cushioned his fall enough, and so he waved his arms up and down and created a beautiful snow angel. "Nice angel," a voice said. "Want to try making something else?" Chibiko sat up and saw Danny standing beside what looked like the base of a snowman. "Sure," Chibiko said. "What do you want me to do?" "Can you roll a nice big snowball to use as a body?" Danny asked. "I'll make the head." Chibiko gave a salute like he had seen on a movie once. "Can do, Captain," he said, and then set about rolling a nice big snowball to use as the snowman's body. As he rolled, he wondered what they might name their snowman. Tom, Brett, Angelus, Yuki. Oh, what if it was a snow woman? Jessica? Lara? Marlene? And what would they dress it in? Maybe he had a spare scarf? Did they have a top hat? Would a snowman or woman want to wear a jacket? Perhaps he shouldn't worry about what it would wear until after he had figured out what he and Danny would use for things like buttons, eyes, and a nose. Did he have any carrots in the house? Would celery make an okay nose, or would it just look strange? Maybe he could use pieces of chocolate for the buttons and the eyes. But he wondered if Danny would be tempted to eat those. He knew that he himself would be. "Chibiko! Chibiko, where are you?" Chibiko could hear Danny calling his name. "I'm just here," Chibiko answered. "Where?" Danny asked. "Here," Chibiko said again. "Oh," Danny said. Chibiko had spent so much time thinking while he was rolling his snowball that instead of helping to make a snowman, he had turned himself into one. It was very dark outside, but this was because it is dark all winter in the North Pole. It was actually still before dinner time, and Santa Danny was double checking that he had all of the presents that he would need for the night. It was a very big number, much higher than Chibiko could count to. Fortunately, although it was very cold, the sky was clear and many stars twinkled beautifully against it. Santa Danny finished counting and looked up at his sleigh. The elves had prepared a chicken for him to eat later, but he expected that he would fill up on milk and Christmas cake and cookies and whatever else might be left out for him while he worked. He put the chicken into a spare pink gift box and climbed aboard.
It had been a tough year, so he had granted the reindeer a special holiday break on the moon. To help him out, they had left him some magic dust which should help the sleigh fly. One way to find out. "Onward, Dasher and Dancer, Prancer and... Wait, you're not here," Santa Danny said. "I guess... let's just go?" The sleigh took off at great speed. It looked wonderful, flying against a backdrop of sparkling stars. But then, it became cloudy. Santa Danny was a bit sad that he couldn't see the sky, but at least it was still safe to fly. But then, it started to become snowy. It was very cold, but Santa Danny kept flying. Then, it became rainy. Santa Danny had to be very careful not to fall as he dug up a blanket to throw over the toy sack, just to be extra sure that all of the presents wouldn't get too wet. But then, just as he was almost finished, it became very, very windy. The wind caught an untouched corner of the blanket and Santa Danny's sled started to spiral out of control. It spun towards the ground, just outside of the city. Crash! Santa Danny bounced across the ground. Everything was blurry and he felt quite dizzy. He stood up and tried to get his bearings. Where was his sleigh? Never mind that. There were presents scattered everywhere. He would have to pick them all up first. And he would have to hurry. He had many deliveries to make. He found a yellow present beside a giant candy cane. He was very hungry, so he ate the candy cane. Then he found an orange present next to an old stocking. He was still hungry, so he ate the stocking as well. After this, he found a blue present next to a tree. He still wasn't full, so he ate the tree. Finally, he could see the sleigh. There was a pink present just in front of it. He didn't want to eat his sleigh, so he ate the present. Ah, full at last. Chibiko woke up very suddenly. He was sweating. He looked at the time. He had overslept. On Christmas Day! Danny was visiting for a big lunch. He had to hurry to get ready. Chibiko had only finished getting the plates out when his doorbell rang. "Happy holidays!" Danny said. "Merry Christmas!" Chibiko replied, and then paused. "Is something wrong?" Danny asked. I had a strange dream," Chibiko said. "You were Santa, and you crashed, and you lost some presents, and you ate many strange things, and I overslept," he admitted. "Lunch isn't ready yet. I'm sorry." "Don't worry about it," Danny said. "It looks like the real Santa left you a present. Let's open that first." Chibiko went and picked up his gift. It was certainly nicely wrapped. "I wonder what it is," Danny said. "I got a basketball." Chibiko was silent. "Well," Danny said, "what is it?" It's... Chibiko said. His voice was full of disbelief. "It's chicken!" "How lucky!" Danny said. "It smells good. We can have lunch after all." "I guess we can," Chibiko said happily. The chicken was cooked perfectly, and so Chibiko and Danny enjoyed a delicious holiday lunch together. Although as they ate, Chibiko couldn't help but wonder if his friend had a very important, maybe even magical secret. One morning, when Chibiko woke up, he felt different. He wasn't sure how he felt different, and so he got up and then... Ouch! His bottom really hurt. He went to his bathroom to look in the mirror. It was very red and sore. Did it feel different to touch? He closed his eyes, reached his arm behind himself, and... Ouch! It hurt a lot. He took a cool shower, because hot water also hurt his bottom, and then went into the kitchen where his friend, Danny, was waiting for him. He had stayed the night on Chibiko's sofa, and had decided to make them both pancakes for breakfast. "Good morning," Danny said cheerfully. "I made pancakes." "Morning," Chibiko replied with a grumpy voice. "What's up?" Danny asked as he moved their pancakes to the table. "Is something wrong?" "It's a bit embarrassing, but my bottom hurts," Chibiko replied. "Oh," Danny said. "My head was hurting earlier, but it's better now. Have you seen a doctor yet?" Chibiko shivered. He didn't like going to see the doctor. "Actually, maybe it's not that bad," Chibiko said as he sat down to eat his pancakes. "Ouch!" Sitting down hurt a lot. He tried again. "Ouch!" "Are you sure you're okay?" Danny asked. "Of course I am," Chibiko said. "I'll just eat my pancakes over here." Chibiko took his pancakes away from the table and tried to eat them standing up. They fell onto the floor. Plop. Danny looked at Chibiko, looked down at the pancakes, and then looked back up at his friend. "Okay," Chibiko grumbled. "I'll go and see a doctor." Danny went with Chibiko to his local doctor. Inside, Chibiko stood up and read an old issue of Ice Cream Monthly until it was his turn to see the doctor. "I see what the problem is," the doctor said. "It looks like you sat on something triangular. It must have started to hurt during the night. That happens sometimes." "Will I be okay?" Chibiko asked. "Of course," the doctor said. "Just let me pat you up and get you a lollipop. No allergies, I take it? And you'll be right as rain soon enough. It may take a little bit of time to stop hurting completely, but there, that's done. I think you should start feeling better very soon." Chibiko did feel better, especially since the doctor had given him some spare lollipops, which he and Danny ate while watching movies later that day. One morning, Chibiko woke up with a thirst for adventure. Somehow, he felt braver than he had other days, and as he ate his breakfast, he thought about what he should do with this day. Watch TV? No, he wanted to do something exciting himself, not watch other people do such things. Maybe play video games? No, still not good enough. Then his phone rang.
Hello,
Chibiko answered.
Hi Chibiko, it's Danny. I'm going to Ninja Hotdog Land in a bit. Would you like to go with me?
So, Danny was going to the new Ninja Hotdog theme park. Chibiko smiled. A theme park. That was perfect.
Sure, he said. Let's go on lots of scary rides.
Okay,
Danny said nervously.
there's a bus leaving in a few minutes. I'll see you there then?
Sure thing, Chibiko said. He hung up his phone and went out to meet his friend so that they could go to Ninja Hotdog Land together. After arriving, they bought their tickets and went through the gate, which was actually the arm of the yellow ninja hot dog. Chibiko looked at the map while Danny went to get them some caramel popcorn and churros. There was a ring toss, some bumper cars, something where you sat down and watched a virtual reality movie. There was also a swing set that spun around by itself, and a roller coaster.
Here you go.
Danny had returned with their snacks. Chibiko took his popcorn, and they walked and munched together.
Yum, yum, yum.
Danny said while eating 3 churros at once.
So, what are we riding first?
The roller coaster!
Chibiko exclaimed with so much energy that he threw his popcorn everywhere.
Oh, cool. Cool,
Danny said.
Here we are,
Chibiko said.
and the line is very short. How lucky!
The roller coaster was huge. It even had 5 loop-the-loops.
Yeah,
Danny said.
lucky.
It was soon their turn, and Chibiko climbed into the roller coaster and pulled down his protector.
Are you ready, buddy?
Chibiko said.
Danny?
Chibiko couldn't find his friend.
Where's Danny?
Is he down here? No?
Behind me.
Maybe to my left?
Boy, he's really good at hiding. Maybe he's under the seat. But that would be a dangerous place to say. Danny, where are you?
Right here.
Danny said. He was standing right beside Chibiko.
Oh,
Chibiko said.
I thought I had looked there already. Are you ready? The ride must be about to start.
What do you mean? Danny said. I got scared and didn't go on. You've already ridden it.
Really? Chibiko asked.
He wondered how many other people had ridden a roller coaster without even noticing it. He supposed that explained why his tummy felt a little bit like it was upside down.
You're pretty brave, Danny said. But can we maybe just go and play the ring toss game now?
Sure, Chibiko said, remembering that it was important to also do what his friends wanted to do.
So long as we can go past the toilets on the way there.
One day, Chibiko was enjoying a glass of orange juice. It was fresh and delicious, but as he was getting to the bottom of his glass, something strange happened.
What was that?
It felt like the inside of his body had tried to jump up without his permission. It happened again. Chibiko's body jumped again, and it also made a strange sound. Why was this happening? He wasn't trying to make any sound. Chibiko closed his eyes and focused on being very still and very, very quiet. He started to count backwards from 10 inside his head. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Chibiko was starting to get worried. He had never lost control of his body like this before. He decided to call Danny and ask about what he should do.
Hello,
Danny said after the phone had rung a couple of times.
Hi, Danny,
Chibiko said. Then he paused.
Is everything okay?
Danny asked.
No,
Chibiko answered.
something strange is happening to my body, and I don't know what I should do.
Oh,
Danny said.
do you think it's serious?
I'm scared that maybe it's very serious,
Chibiko said. And then he said,
Was that a hiccup?
Danny asked.
Is that what you call it? Should I be worried?
Chibiko said.
Not at all,
Danny said.
Hiccups are very annoying, but I don't think they're usually dangerous. I'll come to your place and see if I can help you fix them.
Thank you,
Chibiko said, and then hung up his phone. Chibiko hiccuped 22 more times before his doorbell finally rang.
Come in,
Chibiko said, and went to open his door. Chibiko opened his front door and...
Ah!
Chibiko screamed. Danny took off his mask.
I guess that didn't work, he said. My father once told me that the best way to cure the hiccups is a good scare. Maybe he was wrong.
Do you have any other ideas?
Chibiko asked.
I'm getting desperate.
Don't worry,
Danny beamed.
I've brought a short list with me.
Gee, I hope that at least one of these works,
Chibiko said. It was getting dark, and Chibiko was getting desperate. He and Danny had tried the entire list, and nothing had seemed to work. Would he be stuck with his hiccups forever?
I don't understand,
Danny said.
There are so many cures. Why won't any of them work?
Maybe there are so many because none of them work, and so people keep on trying new ones,
Chibiko suggested.
I really thought that making you eat that chili pepper would help,
Danny said.
But I think it just made the problem worse. Let's see if there's anything else on the list.
Hey, Danny,
Chibiko said.
Oh, there is maybe one more thing we could try,
Danny said excitedly.
Danny,
Chibiko said again. Danny looked up from his list. Chibiko seemed suddenly happy.
The hiccups have stopped,
Chibiko beamed. It was true. Chibiko hadn't hiccuped a single time while he and his friend had been talking.
I guess that the secret is that it just takes time,
Chibiko said.
Was that the last thing that your list said?
Danny looked back at his list.
No, he said matter-of-factly. It says here that I should give you a pillowcase to use like a parachute and then push you from a tree. Can we try that next time?
I'd, rather not,
Chibiko replied. He hadn't enjoyed having the hiccups, but he had learned a lot during the day, and it had been fun experimenting with his friend. He was glad, though, that he didn't have to get pushed out of any trees. While watching TV one day, Chibiko suddenly noticed that his head felt just a little bit heavier than normal. He was worried for a moment, but then he looked up. He was wearing a tall, pointy hat. Wait, was he at a birthday party? Whose birthday was it? And why was it in his own house?
Happy birthday!
A voice said, and Danny came into the room holding a wrapped box over his head.
I've gotten you a present!
Chibiko looked around. There was nobody else in his living room. Was it his birthday? Had he somehow forgotten? Thank you, he said as Danny gave him the present.
Go on, open it!
Danny said. Chibiko did as he was told. Inside was a hamster. It was very cute. Chibiko patted it, put it down, and turned to thank his friend again.
Happy birthday!
Danny said. He was holding another present.
Another present?
Chibiko asked.
That's a lot. Thank you very much.
Of course, Danny said, and then passed the box to Chibiko. Chibiko opened his second present. It was a cat.
Wow, 2 pets,
Chibiko thought to himself.
Happy birthday!
Danny was holding another box.
Are you sure this is okay?
Chibiko asked.
Open it!
Danny said excitedly. Chibiko opened his third present. It was a monkey. Chibiko started to speak.
Happy birthday!
Danny was holding yet another box. Chibiko held this new present nervously.
Open it! Open it!
Chibiko opened his fourth present. It was a panda.
Are you sure?
Chibiko began to ask.
Happy birthday!
Danny was holding another present. Chibiko was starting to feel a bit confused, maybe even dizzy.
Open it! This one's really special!
Chibiko opened his fifth present. It was a giraffe.
Where can I keep a giraffe?
Chibiko began to wonder, while also worrying that it might eat all of the food in the fridge. He was pretty sure that giraffes mostly ate leaves, but if one was living in his house, would it also start eating things that he liked to eat himself? And then might it eat things like balls, or towels, or chairs, or tables, or TVs? His house would be empty! What a nightmare!
A nightmare.
Chibiko opened his eyes. He had been dreaming and was safely in his bed. It wasn't his birthday, but for this time at least, he was quite happy that it wasn't.
Chibiko was sitting in his kitchen, nursing a mug of coffee. It had gotten cold because he didn't usually drink coffee because it was very bitter, and it was taking him a long time to drink it. He was very tired. Danny wandered into the room.
What are you doing?
He asked.
Huh? Oh, Danny, Chibiko said. How did you get in?
The door was wide open, Danny answered.
Oh,
Chibiko said.
I don't think I've been able to sleep for 2 nights now. I'm trying to drink this coffee to help my brain stay awake, since it's daytime now.
I don't think that coffee can do that, Danny said. I think that it just stops your body from falling to sleep. And sleep is what you need.
But I can't sleep,
Chibiko said.
I may have a cure for that, Danny beamed. Follow me.
And so, Chibiko followed Danny out of his house, almost forgot to shut his door, and then they rode the bus to the bookshop. It had been a long time since they had been to the bookshop. Chibiko looked around in amazement. There really were a lot of books. It also looked like they sold coffee and other drinks. Ooh, they had caramel with chocolate sauce.
Snap out of it,
Danny said. He had already found what he was looking for and was holding a book. Chibiko picked it up and looked at it. It was called The Excellent Adventures of Amazing Danny.
I recommend this one,
Danny said. Chibiko didn't know that Danny was in a book. He was very surprised, but he was too sleepy to show it. He was also having trouble finding words.
Okay,
he managed to say.
Let's get this one.
They bought the book together and then went back home. After they arrived, Danny returned to his treehouse and Chibiko took the book up to his bedroom. The sun was already starting to set as he opened the picture book. Somehow, Danny looked a bit taller in the book than he did in the real world. Chibiko turned the page. He wondered what kind of brave adventures his friend would have. The story started with Danny watching TV. Then it showed him eating breakfast. On the next page, he was playing video games. Chibiko wanted to know what game Danny was playing, but the book didn't say. After this, Danny was reading a comic book. Then, he was going for a walk, buying some milk, laying down in the grass and looking at some clouds. The book wasn't at all what Chibiko had been imagining. He was expecting a story of a hero and maybe dragons or magic or even a car chase. Maybe the next page would be different? Chibiko went to turn the page. He never finished turning. He was fast asleep. Danny might need some help with making his stories a bit more exciting, but at least this one had done exactly what Chibiko had needed it to. Chibiko woke up. Waking up, of course, is a normal thing for Chibiko. He wakes up every morning, when the sun is shining and maybe some birds are singing. This time when he woke up, there was no sun, and he couldn't hear any birds either. It is possible that they were singing though. He just couldn't hear them.
And the reason for this, at least as far as he could tell, was that the feet upstairs seemed to be watching action movies, and their sound was turned up very, very high. He tried closing his eyes and going back to sleep, but it was too loud. He tried covering his head with a pillow, but it was still too loud. And after a couple of minutes, he couldn't breathe properly. After about 30 minutes, he gave up on sleep and decided to have a midnight snack. It was all a bit strange, he thought to himself as he peered into the fridge. The feet upstairs were usually very considerate and only made loud noises if he had accidentally done something to upset them. Inside his fridge, he could see nothing much. There was half an apple, a stick of butter, and some fish that was starting to turn green. He decided that it probably wasn't safe to eat that. Also, none of this would make a good midnight snack. Chibiko wondered if any shops would be open, and if he could buy any chips or candy or chocolate. He opened his door, went outside, and then came straight back in. It was raining a lot. He got an umbrella and started to walk into town. It was windy as well as rainy, and Chibiko had to work hard just to go down the street. While walking, he decided to wonder if he would rather buy chips or chocolate. Chips were crunchy and came in many different flavors, but chocolate was sweet and creamy, and sometimes it had different fillings inside. His favorite was caramel. Suddenly, a huge gust of wind blew down the street. It was so strong that it caught Chibiko's umbrella. Chibiko held on tight, but the wind was very strong and it lifted him from the ground. He was flying. It was fun, but also very scary. That was a rustling sound, Chibiko thought. I was expecting a bang or a crash or maybe a splat. He held his breath, counted to 3, and slowly opened his eyes. When they were open, he saw Danny?
Hi, Chibiko, Danny said. I was just about to have a midnight snack. Care to join me? Which would you prefer, chips or chocolates?
The wind had blown so strong that it had carried Chibiko and his umbrella all the way to the top of Danny's tree.
The storm is very loud, Danny said. I thought someone was watching an action movie right outside my window. You should come in before you get sick.
Thank you, Chibiko said as he started to climb towards the door. He was very thankful that he had landed in a tree, and also that Danny was both safe and awake. But he still couldn't decide if he'd prefer chips or chocolates. Chibiko woke up. He had been having trouble getting out of bed recently because the air was a bit cold and his bedding was so nice and warm. But the weather didn't seem so bad today. He jumped straight out of bed,
took a quick shower, and started to prepare breakfast. While he was adding some honey to his toasts, he noticed that it actually looked nice and sunny outside. It looked like it would be a perfect day for a walk in the park. And so, he quickly ate his breakfast and drank his orange juice. He raced back to his room to get ready. He put on some sunscreen, chose a nice hat, and decided to wear his new sunglasses. He was very excited to go to the park. Chibiko left his bedroom, walked past his television, opened the door and... oh. While he had been getting ready, it had become cloudy. Never mind, he thought to himself. I can still go out. He went back up to his room, put his sunglasses away, and switched his hat for a beanie. He was ready at last. Chibiko returned to his front door, opened it, and found that it was now pouring with rain. Well, this is inconvenient, he thought to himself, but not impossible. Chibiko went back inside and searched until he found his umbrella. He returned to his front door, opened it, and walked out into the snow. The umbrella was useful for keeping the snow off of him, but Chibiko's hands were getting very cold, and so he went back inside to put on some mittens. He decided to wear green ones this time, but when he opened the front door again, it had become very, very windy. Chibiko stood and looked at everything that was blowing in the wind. He remembered the last time that he had been outside when it was very windy. He thought about how much he wanted to go to the park, which was quite a lot. And finally, he decided that as much as he wanted some exercise, maybe it would be a better idea to instead invite Danny around to watch a movie indoors. They could go for a walk in the park on a day when it would be clear and sunny all day long. He picked up his phone to call his friend when suddenly he heard a crash. Danny had just flown in through his window. It really must be very windy. I guess it really is just as well that I didn't go outside, Chibiko thought to himself as he went over to help his friend and to clean up the glass before it became dangerous. One day, when he woke up, Chibiko's tummy was rumbling. That's interesting, he thought. I didn't know it did that. I must be pretty hungry. He got up and thought about what he wanted to eat as he took a shower. Pancakes, perhaps? Strangely, no, not pancakes. It was almost as if he was too hungry for pancakes. The reason for this became clear after he had dried himself and looked at a clock. It was almost lunchtime. Maybe other people ate pancakes for lunch or dinner or dessert, but for Chibiko, pancakes were for breakfast. He was having a lot of trouble deciding what he wanted to eat, and so he decided to call his friend Danny.
Hello,
Danny said as he answered the phone. Hi, Danny, Chibiko replied.
Do you have any good ideas about what I should eat for lunch?
Danny said. The weather has been getting nice again recently. Maybe you should have something that you can eat outside.
That's it! Chibiko exclaimed. I'll have a barbecue. You can come over later too, if you'd like some.
That sounds good, Danny said. I'm glad I could help.
Chibiko hung up his phone and rushed down to the kitchen to see what he had in the fridge. He was in luck. He had pork chops and chicken drumsticks, sausages and liver that he could put on skewers, camel burgers, and even some steak. He piled everything onto a big plate and went outside to light his barbecue. He was about to put a couple of sausages on when a cucumber fell from the sky. That's a bit strange, he thought. A potato flew down a couple of seconds later. Chibiko was confused. He had checked the weather forecast when getting the meat from the fridge, and it said that it would be mostly sunny. It said nothing about rain, and it certainly said nothing about raining vegetables. An ear of corn hit the ground just in front of Chibiko.
I suppose it would be very bad to waste this,
Chibiko thought, and so he rushed inside and returned with a bowl. He stood there for a minute, but nothing happened. He waited for another. Still nothing. And then 5 minutes more, and still nothing fell from the sky. This is getting silly, he thought to himself, and then, just as he was about to turn to put some chicken on the grill, a head of lettuce fell from the sky. Chibiko stretched out his arm and caught it. This time, there was only about a second before a carrot swiftly came flying down on his other side. He caught that too. This was followed by a turnip, a piece of broccoli, 3 onions, and what felt like 100 peas. Chibiko was starting to get a little sweaty as Danny walked into the yard.
Are you playing baseball too?
Danny asked when he saw the sweat on his friend's forehead.
Baseball?
Chibiko asked.
I saw the feet upstairs just now, Danny said. They were on the roof, hitting vegetables with a bat.
Oh, that explains it,
Chibiko said as he put the bowl down. It was quite full.
That seems naughty of them, but at least they must have just about run out of vegetables. Maybe I can start cooking for us now.
Look out! Danny said.
Too late. A tomato fell from the sky and landed perfectly on Chibiko's head. The juice dribbled down his face.
Are you okay?
Danny asked. Chibiko sucked the tomato juice into his mouth.
I'm okay, he said. Although this normally happens with pancakes, not tomatoes.
Fortunately for Chibiko and Danny, the tomato was the last thing to fall from the sky. They cooked their food together and enjoyed a barbecue that was much more healthy than it was originally going to be, even if they couldn't decide if a tomato was a vegetable or a fruit.